Hello and thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to show you our new trip enhancements. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And I'm going to go right to the trips section. So we have upgraded our trips section. We've added some enhancements, but it basically works the same way. When we come into the trips area here, we're by default going to see any upcoming trips that we have scheduled. And of course, we can go ahead and take a look at past trips as well. I'm going to go ahead and create a new trip. So I'll click on New Trip. And I'm going to give my trip a name. I'm just going to call this a casino trip. And I'm going to choose an icon for my trip. And I'll choose a category for my trip. I'm going to choose Day Trip Casino. Of course, I can put a description if I'd like. Then I'm going to go ahead and choose my dates. So by default, both dates will be filled in with the current date, but we can change those dates to anything we like. Of course, if we're doing a day trip, we're just going to put the same dates in both areas. So let's see, I am going to create my trip for Monday the 23rd. Then I'll choose my minimum signups. This is the minimum amount of people I need to sign up for this trip for me to be able to follow through with it. You can make that number anything you'd like, even 1 if you want. And then of course my maximum amount that I can take on this trip. Total cost to the center. This is not what we're charging individuals to go on this trip. This is what it costs the center to create this trip. This is an optional field. You can fill it in if you like. Participants will not see this number in any way. If I'm using a travel agency of some kind, I can indicate that agency. If I have someone sponsoring this trip, I can indicate that sponsor. And of course, if I want to tie these payments to a specific account, I can choose a specific account as well. Those are all optional fields. And then I'll go ahead and scroll back up to the top here. And off to the right hand side, now I'm going to create my payment plans. So of course I can create as many payment plans as I'd like. For example, I might have a plan for town residents where they pay one cost, and then another plan for people who are from out of town, non-residents. They might pay a little bit more. That would be 2 plans. Okay, so to keep things easy though, I'm going to go ahead and create 1 plan. And then in my plan, I can have any number of payments. And actually, I will go ahead and create 2 plans because I want to show everybody that now when we have 2 plans, we can have any number of payments on either plan. So I can have a plan with 2 payments and a plan with 1 payment, or any combination of numbers I'd like. In the old system, both plans would have had the same amount of payments. So in the new system, either plan can have any number of payments, however I want to set it up. So let's see, I'm going to keep it at 2 payments on one payment on another plan. I'm going to give my plans a name. So by default, they'll just have this payment plan 1, payment plan 2. But I can change that. I can give these a name. So I'm going to call this one the installment plan. And I'm going to call my second plan let's see, full payment plan. So on one of them, they'll be able to make 2 payments. On the other plan, they can pay it all off in one lump sum if they'd like. So then I have to choose my amounts for each of my plans. So plan 1 with my 2 installments, I am going to say, their first payment is going to be $50. And the second payment is going to be $50 as well, and I can make those any amount I want. and I can change the due dates. Let's see, I'll change my due dates to, I'm going to say the Friday before. I can put in any due date I like. There we go. And then on payment plan number 2, they're just going to have one $100 payment. I'm going to give that the same due date. And then once I have all of my details set up, I'll go ahead and click Save down at the bottom. And there I've created my new plan, my new trip rather. So now I can see both of my upcoming trips there. Now all of the other stuff that we had before is still here. Nothing's missing. We haven't taken anything away. We can still set reminders on the touchscreen for payments if people come and scan their card and they haven't paid yet. We can also go ahead and edit the trip if we need to. We can edit anything about the trip. We can edit the payment plans. That's another new feature. In the old system, you were not able to edit your payment plans. Now you can. So that's great. If we go back here, we can copy trips now as well. If you want to copy this trip and then just change your dates, it'll save you a little bit of time if you have the same trip maybe next year or something like that. If we go ahead and click right on the icon for our trip, that'll bring up the roster page. And then all of the same functions that we had on the old roster page are here. Things just look a little bit different, but everything really works the same way. So let's go back into one of my other trips here where I have some people registered for it, my concert. If I click on the icon for my concert, I can see my roster here. I can see the people that are signed up for this trip. I could print out my roster if I wanted to. My settings button here will help me design my roster. That part all works exactly the same as it used to. So you can go in and pick and choose which fields you want to have and which column on your roster. And then down at the bottom you can even drag and drop. Maybe I want to have the phone numbers above my address. And then I click Save. Save my roster. And I can close that window. I can print out mailing labels for everybody in this list. I can send out a robocall. Of course, I can edit the trip. My register button here is what we used to call the multi-register. If I click on that button, it'll bring me over to my People tab, and I can just start clicking on people. Anytime I click on someone's name, it'll ask me to pick a plan, and then they're added to my trip. Click Stop, and we're all done. We can go back over to the Events tab and go back into Trips. If I click on my icon, I'll see those new people added there. We have how many spots are remaining on our trip. We still have our waiver checkbox. If you're requiring a waiver, you can indicate that you've received that waiver. We can still put notes in for folks. We can still move people all around as we need to. I can move someone down to the waiting list if I want to. There I go. I have one person on the waiting list. I can still cancel people if I need to. And for these people that are down on the waiting list and the cancel list, we can still move them back up again if we want to. So we can still move people all around just like we used to be able to. And of course I can manage payments from here as well. I can either check that little box right under paid, or I can click right on pay. Either one will do the same thing. We'll just bring up the payment window for that individual. And of course we can choose our method of payment. And I can either just save that payment, or if I want a receipt right now, I can click on Save Payments and Print Receipt. And there's my receipt for Dawn for that trip. So as you can see, all of our features are still there. Things are just upgraded a bit. You have some new abilities that you can use, like fully editing and so on. If we go back here, we can now see what percentage of our trip has been filled as well. We also have a search feature up at the top, so if you end up having a lot of trips over time, you can search for a specific trip. I could just type in concert, for example, and there we go. And you can see as I type, it just adds that filter to my window immediately. And once we have a past trip, all those features will be there as well. It's just going to be trips for the past instead of upcoming. So that's really everything. As you can see, it pretty much works the same way. All of our features are still there, but now we have some extra features, and it really looks a lot nicer. I think everybody's going to really enjoy this trip update.